Well, good morning everyone, good morning. Yeah, this isn't the video I wanted to do actually. The video I wanted to do was actually about a response to some comments that have been made about the video I did about the Jehovah's work coming to a halt all over the world due to COVID-19. But last Friday, I was sent a link through Messenger on this story here. This guy here. Now that guy there, his name is Anyon. And I'll just read out, and this is, it's not just on, it's on a lot of websites at that time. But anyway, a Wirral man who sexually assaulted 3 young boys in Ellesmere Port has been jailed. Anyon was convicted of 2 counts of buggery, 7 counts of indecent assault following a 6-day trial at Chester Crown Court, which concluded on Monday the 2nd November. The 48-year-old of Fairview Way, Pensby, was sentenced to a total of 10 years in prison. He was also ordered to sign the sex offenders register for life. And here's the big bit. Anyon's offending began in 1983 when he was 13 years old and continued through to 1989. He met his 3 victims, who were aged just 4 to 11 year old, at the Jehovah's Witness former Kingdom Hall on Rosthern Avenue in Ellesmere Port. Much of the abuse took place at the church, where Anyon would inappropriately touch his victims in the toilets. He also abused all of his victims in his bedroom at his Ellesmere Port home. Following the sentencing, Detective Constable George Booth from Cheshire Constabulary Rape Unit said, Firstly, I would like to recognise the bravery that all of the victims have shown throughout this investigation. What Anyon put them through is truly horrifying, and the fact that he made his victims endure a trial and recount what he'd done to them was extremely distressing. But thanks to their courage, he is now facing the consequences of his actions. The sentence handed to Anyon reflects the severity of his crime, and his conviction sends a clear message that Cheshire Police takes all reports of historic sexual offences seriously. We do our best to bring offenders to justice. Well, there you go. Anyon, Ellesmere Port, Kingdom Hall. Started when he was 13 in 1983. And the reason why this got sent to me is because, of course, in 1983, I was still attending that Kingdom Hall in Rosthern Avenue, and this is the Kingdom Hall. It's no longer a Kingdom Hall. That's what it looks like now. Well, in fact, no, it looks exactly the same as I remember it. It was more like cream coloured paint that I remember, but that is the building. As you can see, that there's nothing of it. Now, let me just give you a bit of a backstory on that hall. I started going to it in about 1972. Approaching 73, and Ellesmere Port is an industrial town, and because of the industry there's always people coming into the area for work, and they were always building in Ellesmere Port all the time, houses going up, and in due time the hall became quite full of people coming to the area, or just people, naturally having children. Now, as we approached 75, of course, it was very, very busy. And of course 75, as we all know, came and went, because in 75 we were in the last minute of the last hour of the last day of the last week of the last month of the last year of the last decade of the last century, and Armageddon was imminent. Well, as we all know, that's another Jehovah's Witness prophecy which has failed to be realised. So Armageddon never came and went, it just never came, and a few people left this Kingdom Hall, and what eventually happened is that obviously the people put off, the young people put off getting married, or get married after Armageddon. They decided then to get married, and they got married. They brought their partners into that hall. It got to get full again, then they had children, and the children needed seats, and in due time this hall became really, really full, really, really quickly. When you actually look at the hall, here to explain it, is that you had, there's 3 windows at the side, 3 windows each side, which had shutters to stop them getting smashed. And they had that double door at the front, which was broken into a few times. You went through that double door, then the next thing there was, in that double door, there was a little hallway through to another double door which went into the hall. And at the side, on the left and the right, when you went through that door, were the 2 toilets. And the toilet on the right was the male's toilet. You went through the door, there was one sit-down toilet, and I think there were 2 urinals and a hatch. This, because it was so small, that's doubled as the magazine counter. So before the meeting and after the meeting, you were in there, the hatch was open, and you went up to the counter inside the main hall, and of course the toilet's in the background. And on the other side was the women's toilet, and I think that doubled as the literature counter. So that was that hall. And once it got too big, and to explain how big it got, that literally when it came to extra parts on the Theocratic Ministry School, what happened is that literally about a third of the audience left that Kingdom Hall, even in the winter, walked out and went next door to an actual school, I believe it was. I don't think it's there anymore. And we went into a classroom there, and that's why I thought it was called the second school, because we were in a school, and it was, anyway. So anyway, that's what happened. Now I think after 75, once the numbers started to increase again, it became obvious that this hall was too big. The congregation split in half. Half of them went to formed a new congregation called Eastham, which was in Eastham, funny enough, and it took half of the congregation with them. And a lot of people who were in the Aylesbury Port Territory area went to the other hall because the friends had gone there, or the favourite elder had gone there. And we were left in our hall with not the most versatile, dynamic elders. They were mostly older in age, to be honest with you. And I knew all the elders who would have been involved in this case, probably at the time. So we were left with all of a sudden the hall was half empty, and it was that half empty that I do remember a certain person, I won't name names, but I believe his father was the presiding overseer at the time, that he was in front of me talking, he must be about 17, 18, talking about to his somebody else about, are you going to watch Dracula tonight? And because the hall was that small, everybody could hear the conversation, and his dad literally got off from his seat, leaned across, went over the gap in between the 2 sets of seats in the middle of the hall, and just whacked him on the back of the head. And you heard the thuds, and everybody in the front turned round and to see this certain person, Lily said his name there, shaking the back of his head. And everybody behind obviously saw the whole thing. But that's how small the hall was. Now I can't remember Dennis Anyon and his family, and whether they were in the hall before it split up. They probably were, but it was really hard to get to know anybody in that hall because it was so mobbed and such a small channel to actually speak to anybody. You couldn't get to know people very well at all unless they were in your group. Now, Dennis Anyon's father was also Dennis Anyon. I don't understand why people call themselves, name their sons after themselves, never understood it, but anyhow, he was called Dennis Anyon as well. His wife was Sheila Anyon, and they had another son who I'm not going to say his name at this time, I'll reveal why a bit later on. So Dennis Anyon, the dad, as far as I'm aware, didn't work. He did a lot of drinking because he had a massive pot belly, and I think he suffered from epilepsy. Maybe that's why it didn't work, I can't remember. He had a bit of a speech impediment, and he couldn't read very well at all. I used to take him on a Bible study I had, and it was just really painful when it was like we'd take it in turn reading portions of whatever book we were studying, and it came to Dennis reading his bit, and it was awful, and we were trying to help him with the words. And of course when Dennis was giving talks on the platform, as you know, some of the words in the Bible are just it's difficult for anybody who's a particularly good speaker to read them, never mind somebody who struggles to speak. And this thing that we get people to go up and give talks on the meeting who don't want to be facing people who've got problems, have got speech impediment, I think is all wrong. And I do remember in Dennis struggling trying to read on the Kingdom Hall, and I remember in Rutherglen another guy called Floyd, who had a speech impediment as well. At times he couldn't say this word, and he tried saying it once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times, and he just said, I can't say this word, and he just walked off the Kingdom Hall. He walked off the platform and sat at the back. It was really upsetting for everybody there. So yet again, this thing that brothers are sort of forced to go up and give talks when it's dynamic, it's not dynamic enough, or it's totally alien to them to do that as a person, I think is all wrong. So Dennis's wife Sheila was a really, really nice woman. She was a nice sister. I really, really liked Sheila. She was really down to earth, friendly, chatty. I spent, her and my mum were friends, and we were in their company a lot. And she often used to say to me, "Oh, Terry, I look at you and you're Ian, and I just think that's how my boys are going to be when they grow up." Well, that one didn't work out. Sorry about that, Sheila. But anyway, so I don't remember these boys being in the hall we've split up. But once it was narrowed down, yeah, I do remember the whole family, and I saw these boys growing up from very, very small, because I was, I left in March '84, and so I must have known these guys. I was in that hall from 72 to for 12 years, so I must have known these guys near enough. from infants really to whatever. So anyway, that was the family. That was the family. And once I heard of this event, I then messaged somebody else. I thought to myself at that point, hold on a second, 3 boys abused in the hall while I was there. Who could it be? And there was only one other family who had a lot of boys. And I'm Facebook friends with the sisters of a couple of these boys, and I'm Facebook friends with their uncle. And I contacted him and just said, "Have you seen this?" And then I said, "Did this happen to your nephews?" And he said yes. And then straight away I thought, oh my God, I know exactly who the abuser was, and who the people that he abused was over this time period. And it's just, I was absolutely stunned. When I moved away from Ellesmere Port, I went back a few times, and then at some time around about 89 or 90, I'm not too sure about this time period at all, my mother said, "Oh, the Anyon family have moved to Birkenhead," and I was really shocked. I thought, "Oh, I wonder why." Didn't mean anything to me at the time. I wonder why they've moved. And the next thing is that my mum said, "Oh, you see, the younger Anyon boy says he has been charged with rape." And I was going, "What, little so and so? Little so-and-so has been charged with rape?" Because, of course, in my mind, when I left in 1984, to me, they're all still the age I left them. They haven't grown up, and they haven't had children. To me, they're always on. So I still picture the wee Anyon boys. And I thought, wow, that's incredible. But, of course, now, reading this story here, straight away you think, oh, that's maybe not the reason why. Maybe the reason why they moved away was because of these events. Because I asked the uncle, I said, were the elders made aware? Were the elders aware of this? And he said, yes, they were. So that's probably means that probably 1989, this all came out. And that's when they moved away, because, and this is true, the father of these boys was an elder when I left, so I think he was still an elder then. their grandfather was an elder as well. So I can only imagine that at the time when this came out, and knowing the way the society works in relating to events like this, I can just imagine the scenario. I can just imagine that all of a sudden it became shock when one of the boys or both of the boys went to their mum and dad and just said, look, Anyon's just raped me. And they would have then thought, what do we do? Because let's be honest with you, the elders are not trained to deal with events like this. Certainly they weren't back then. They would have not known what to do. They're not experts. They were just working class and by and large decent blokes just trying their best. And I just imagine that they rung up the Bethel in London, and their advice would have been, you guessed it, don't report it to the police. Deal with it in-house, get a judicial committee, counsel, and give the scriptural counsel to everybody involved. Use scriptures, forgiveness, blah blah blah. But whatever you do, do not report this to the police. If it gets out, imagine the reproach in Jehovah's name. Imagine imagine the Kingdom Hall in Ellesmere Port. Imagine how everybody in the territory would feel having to then go out knowing that this had gone on, having a paedophile in the congregation such an early age. Back then, no paedophilia was, most people didn't even know what that was. So that's exactly how that would have gone down. And then you would have got that, their father and their grandfather having to go, yeah, that's probably the good thing, the right thing to do. When in reality, I'm sure the father and grandfather just wanted to actually just get hold of Anyon and give him the hiding of his life and then report it to the police. But of course they had to follow the direction of the faithful and discreet slave, and then they chose to do it their way. Now, the upshot of this is, of course, that Anyon wasn't brought to boot 31 years ago, or a bit later on, because the abuse carried on to 89. That is 31 years ago. My God, and he wasn't brought to boot then. So you think, what happened? What's happened in the interim with everybody involved? If the police had been involved back then, he probably would have served a sentence, but then he would have been then asked, probably would have been counselled. It wouldn't be just a case of, did you do it? Yes, I did. It would have been, why did you do it? What took you down the road at the age of 13 to stop touching, little boys in the Kingdom Hall toilet, and then raping them in your bedroom? And I've been trying to think about this, because obviously that never, we'll never know. We'll never know. And that, unfortunately, because the elders never reported to the police, they wouldn't have had counsellors at the time actually speaking to him and just saying, where did this come from? And I've been trying to think myself, where did this come from at such an early age? And back then in 1983 up to 89, I never knew anybody who had a video recorder until 1986, and that was only one person. And this thing, and you're thinking, well, maybe he could have online ordered a video. Online didn't exist back then. Even if he would have got the video, how would he have played it? The only access to any sort of pornography was if you went into the newsagents. And I'm not saying that I spent a lot of time looking here, but I did buy music magazines. But up the top shelf there was always the nudie books. But I can't remember, and I'm not saying I lingered longer, but I don't remember, accidentally viewing the nudie range, because I've never bought one in my life, and actually seeing two guys with six packs sort of kissing each other. I don't remember in my mind there ever being any the sort of gay section of on the porn shelf. So I'm trying to think, where did this even come from? And I'm thinking, what access would he have had to stories of men wanting to rape men And then I realised, it's the Bible. It's the Bible. Let's think about this. And let's consider the story of Lot. Okay? Now let's think. Everybody in the hall would have, especially a young guy from an early age, would have been encouraged to eventually to go up, stand in the podium, meet from 6, 7, 8, 9, whenever they're comfortable enough to do it, to go and give their little Bible. I don't know if they even do that anymore. So you'd give your Bible reading. The whole Bible was read several times in my lifetime, all the way through, few chapters every week. And I don't know whether the elder who gave the assignment would actually scan the chapters and say, oh my God, I can't assign this to this particular brother because this material is 18 plus. It's totally inappropriate for a young person to be reading this material. I don't know whether the guys who did the assignment ever did that. I know I helped do the assignments when I was in Rotherdown. I never ever thought about the material. I never looked at the material head, and then the Bible reading. I never said, well, that guy shouldn't be reading that because, you know, there's some difficult words there, or the actual story is 18 plus. And when we think about a lot of the things in the Bible, they are really, you know, if you made a film of some of the things that occurred in the Bible, Lot's story included, it would be certificate 18. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And yet we would have to read portions of the Bible which are totally unsuitable for either the person reading it and the people in the audience. Now, I just want to, you know, if you're not familiar with the story of Lot, I just want to, I'll briefly go through this. This isn't from the New World Translation version. This is from another version. But anyway, I'll just crack on with this. Two angels arrived at, this is Genesis chapter 19. 2 angels arrived at Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of the city. When he saw them, he got up to meet them, and he bowed down with his face to the ground. My lords, he said, please turn aside to your servant's house. You can wash your feet and spend the night, and then go on your way early in the morning. No, they answered, we will spend the night in the square. A bit odd, somebody's offering you accommodation and you're saying, no, you're right, we'll spend the night in the square. A little bit odd, but a bit bizarre, but hey ho. But he insisted so strongly, because he insisted strongly with the angels, he decided, okay, Lot, you've persuaded us, we're going to spend the night in the square, but you've persuaded us to go to the house. But he insisted so strongly that they did go with him and entered his house. He prepared a meal for them, blah, 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 blah. They ate. And before they'd gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city of Sodom, so the word had spread round the city of Sodom, there's 2 fit-looking guys have just entered the city, right? Because they were angels, and they must have looked magnificent, 6-pack, muscly, chiseled jaw, you know, wonderful beards, hair immaculate, stunning blue eyes, or whatever. So, it said, before they'd gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city, both young and old, surrounded the house. They called out to Lot, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we can have sex with them. Now, I'm actually sure in the New World Translation it says, bring them out to us so that we can have intercourse with them. I don't think it says sex. So Lot went outside to meet them and shut the door behind him. So he goes out, shuts the door and said, no, my friends, don't do this wicked thing. Look, I have 2 daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do with them what you like. Now, honestly, this, you know, this is incredible. So basically, young and old are surrounding Lot's house. The bang on the door says, bring out these guys so we may gang rape them. We may have intercourse with these fit-looking guys. Lot goes to the thing and says, I think he realises they're angels at this point, and just says, no, don't do this wicked thing. Instead, take my 2 daughters who are virgins and do with them what you please. So he's offering up his daughters to get gang raped by the old and the young men of the city. However, the men of Sodom and Gomorrah were you know, they thanks but no thanks in this. They wanted to engage in gay rape of these men. So they said, "Get out the way," they replied. "This fellow came here as a foreigner and now he wants to play the judge. We'll treat you worse than them." So hey ho, God, I don't know what Lot was going to get, if it was going to get worse than gay rape, but it must have been. I don't even want to think about that. So they kept bringing pressure on Lot and moved to break down the door. But the men inside reached out, pulled Lot back in and shut the door. Then they struck the men who were at the door of the house, young and old, with blindness, so they could not find the door. I'm confused. Yeah, anyway, it's a bit odd. So the two men said to Lot, "Do you have anyone else here, sons-in-law, sons or daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of here, because we're going to destroy this place. The outcry to the Lord against its people is so great, he has sent us to destroy it." So Lot went out, spoke to his sons-in-law, who were pledged to marry his daughters. He said, "Hurry, get out of this place, because the Lord is about to destroy his city." But his sons-in-law thought he was joking. With the coming of dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, "Hurry, take your wife and your two daughters who are here, or you'll be swept away when the city is punished." When he hesitated, the men grasped his hand and the hand of his wife and his two daughters and led them safely out of the city, for the Lord was merciful to them. As soon as he had brought them out, one of them said, "Flee for your lives, don't look back, don't stop anywhere in the plain, flee to the mountains or you'll be swept away." But Lot said to them, "No, my lords, please. Your servant has found favour in your eyes, and you've shown great kindness to me and spared my life. But I can't flee to the mountains. The disaster will overtake me and die." Why did he say that? A bit odd. Obviously, the mountains are up there, safety in the mountains. The town's going to be destroyed, and he's arguing with these angels that I don't want to go to the mountains. So look, here's a town near enough to run to, and it is small. Let me flee to it. It is very small, isn't it? Wowee. Then my life will be spared. So he's arguing with, it's bizarre. So he said to them, "Very well, I will grant this request too. I will not overthrow the town you speak of, but flee there quickly, because I cannot do anything until you reach it." That's why the town's called Zor. Don't ask me what Zor means. So anyway, so basically Lot then flees to Zor, and as soon as he reaches Zor, then the angels destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. By the time Lot reached Zor, the sun had risen over the land. Then the Lord rained down burning sulphur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens, as he overthrew those cities and the entire plain, destroying all those living in the cities and also the vegetation in the land. But Lot's wife looked back and she became a pillar of salt. So we still don't know her. We don't know her name, and we don't know the name of the daughters. The daughters appear a bit later. So it says here, "So when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham, and he brought Lot out of the catastrophe that overthrew the cities where Lot had lived." I think Abraham was Lot's uncle. Now, here's the next bit, which is completely that bit was 18 plus. The bit of gang raping the angels, wanting to gang rape the daughters, the burning alive of everybody in the towns, the turning of Lot's wife into it's all 18 plus. So Lot and his daughters. So Lot and his two daughters left Zoar, and they settled in the mountains, for he was afraid to stay in Zoar. Don't know why. He and his two daughters lived in a cave. That's funny, because beforehand the angel said, "Go to the mountains to flee," and then he says, "No, can we go to the town?" Now he's back in the cave in the mountains. A little bit odd, but hey ho. So one day the older daughter said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man around here to give us children, as is the custom all over the earth. Let's get our father to drink wine and then sleep with him and preserve our family line through our father." That night, they got the father to drink wine, and the older daughter went in and slept with him. He was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. Now, oh, come on, this is just nonsense. So we're believed to say this is clearly incest, and clearly they knew this was wrong. So they got the father drunk. Now, as far as I'm aware, and I can speak from personal experience, when you drink wine, things don't function the way they normally do. There's a thing called I think there's a phrase called brewer's droop. So normally I'm not buying this one at all. Somehow, how did this work? And there's something not right here. So one daughter commits incest with the father, and the dad wakes up the next morning. He's none the wiser. He's none the wiser at all. So the next day, The older daughter said to younger, last night I slept with my father, let's get him to drink wine again tonight, and you go in and sleep with him, so we can preserve our family line to our father. So they got their father to drink wine that night also, and the younger daughter went in and slept with him. Again, he was not aware of it when she lay down and when she got up. And who would have thought, but bizarrely, so both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. Well, there you go. That is a story and a half. Now, I kid you not. That got read in the congregation, every congregation of the world, and it's probably still getting read today, that story. And maybe it was featured in the Watchtower, and there was even in the assembly a few years ago, there was the wife of Lot. They never went into the whole gang rape. They never went into the whole incest story, but it's there. It's there in black and white. Now, not only is that story completely inappropriate for a child to be reading it from the platform, it's completely inappropriate for any child in the audience to listen to that. And as you know, that when you were doing a Bible read on there, you had to keep on read, repeat. So you could then go out and give the Bible reading, not stumble over any words at all. And at the end of the talk, you then have to then come up with some sort of modern day parallel. So that, what does that story teach us there, brother? Well, I don't know what story that teaches us, to be honest with you, but I'd love to have been able to say, well, brothers, what does that teach us? And then maybe just walk off. But there would have been children in the audience. There'll be some child at some time would have had to have read that to give a Bible reading on it. There would have been children in the audience definitely reading that, thinking, bring them out so we may have intercourse with them. Mummy, what does intercourse mean? Speak to your dad. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is, here, when it comes to Dennis Anyon, this may be complete nonsense, but when it comes to Dennis Anyon's, the only way he could have read anything in relating to raping of men was in the Bible. The Bible isn't no holes barred, excuse the pun, when it comes to talking about, this is not the only the only story about rape. We know other people have been raped. We know, the Bible's full of incest and rape, but clearly, this is a clear story about gay rape. So I'm not saying that's what turned Dennis Anyon down the brown side of the road, but it may have been. But the end of the day is, because Anyon wasn't because he wasn't reported to the police, and it was just a case of moving on to another congregation, what happened in the meantime? If you think about the people the three boys that were abused and raped by this guy, what have they had to deal with? Concealing this. I know none of them are witnesses now. All of their brothers and sisters are not witnesses anymore. The mother and father still are. But what have they had to deal with in their lives? What psychological and emotional problems have they had to live with that 31 years later they've actually had to break down to maybe their partner or their wife or their friend or each other and say, this guy did this to us, and there was never any legal justice. And who knows what he's been doing now. And this is the thing. He moved up to the Wirral, and I don't know whether they started attending a congregation in the Wirral, but what happened next? What happened with Dennis Anyon next? Because as we all know, the congregation, they would have not known there's a paedophile moved into their congregation. They would have not known that. It would have just appeared a family, oh, there's an Anyon people, known a few people, nobody been aware of, apart from maybe a few elders. So what exactly happened here? Was anybody at school he might have been abusing? Was it just confined to the classroom? I doubt this is the end of the story. I've got a feeling that this is not the end of the story. I think seeing that guy's picture flagged up in the area, and it's all over the internet in the area, and probably it was on the local news. I live in Scotland, so I never saw it on the TV. I've no doubt it was in the local news. And I think that's probably triggered a lot of people who try to forget about Dennis Anyon, and all of a sudden things that happened years ago have come back. Now, if Dennis Anyon had served time and received some sort of counselling himself to try and understand why he was the way he was, and he may have blamed the things he had to read or heard being read from the platform, maybe things would have been different. But the thing about Dennis Anyon, bizarrely, I remember him giving his first talks on the platform. I remember him getting his first suit, and I even remember him constantly going to the toilet, because I sat at the back and did the sound. I can still see him with his glasses, with his slightly too big for him suit, first suit he got, walking to the toilet during the meetings because his family sat down at the front. And I remember my mum saying, and it used to be a bit of a joke, there's Dennis going to the toilet again. I remember mum saying to me, I'm sure my mum said to me, Sheila says he's got problems down there, he's got a weak bladder. Well, that obviously clearly wasn't the case at all. And, you know, it's things on that that I reflect now back on that image. That image will never go away for me of now that I know that. But the thing about it is if Dennis had gone to prison for a certain period of time, maybe he would have received the professional help that he needed, and certainly the boys who got abused should have received professional help. But as it is, the witnesses would have covered it over, you know, forgiveness, and these boys have probably had to deal with this for 31 years when they should have been receiving counselling 31 years ago. So heaven knows what they've been going through. And Anyon as well, he may have then been released, and then he may have again come into society as a reformed man. We don't really know. It may have been the case, and there has been cases of people who've come out of prison after things like this in their lives, and they then all of a sudden want to do something in society, something positive to make some positive life. But this guy never went down, and let's just say this guy not only has a social media footprint, he has many footprints, Dennis Anyon. He's got an unusual name, and so it's not hard to find these. He's got several Twitter accounts. And then you may say to yourself, well, maybe it's not him that he's set these up. Well, looking at a Twitter account, I'm sure is his, and you compare what he says in it compared to other Twitter accounts where there's no profile picture, I'm pretty sure that it's him all along. And there's this other social media thing called Pinterest, which shows, you know, where you put up what your interests are in pictures. Now, there's no way I can even read the things that he's put on in social media. A lot of it's disgusting. But one thing called Pinterest is see those pictures there? That's in a Dennis Anyon Pinterest account. As you can see, there's a lot of younger looking boys on there, and I don't know when this dates from. And when you look to another Dennis Anyon Pinterest account, which I think he's then named albums and put certain pictures in. You know, if you just look at those there, look at the names of the albums: Boys Swimwear, Beauty of Boys, Kids, Boys Sleepwear, Preteen Boys, Cute Teenage Boys, Teen Boys Underwear, Boys Playing My Saves. So I've no doubt in my mind that's Dennis Anyon's account. No doubt in my mind. And when you go on to his Twitter account, and like I said, you can't read his tweets because there's one of his Twitter accounts, there's a picture of him there. But when you look at his tweets and replies at another Twitter account, he's saying to people, asking them for private pictures. And it goes on and on and on. And in fact, he's saying here, this is 2015, on an account called, another Dennis Anyon one, Dennis Anyon 771. This is 2015, and he's saying, one of his last tweets and replies saying, he's saying, Can you help? I'm being called a pedo. I am not. Twitter, please delete my account. It's probably not the brightest. And he's tweeting somebody called Johnny Orlando. Hi Johnny, according to some people on Twitter, I'm a paedophile. I'm not, so good luck on your singing career. Then somebody in March talked to Metropolitan Police. He tweets to Johnny Orlando again. Hi Johnny, have you reported me to the police, yes or no? Now Johnny Orlando, this is 2015. If you actually go on to Johnny Orlando, I've never heard of Johnny Orlando in my life. But Johnny Orlando is sort of some sort of teen star. And in 2015, he was 12. So at that point, Anyon's tweeting to a 12-year-old, and it goes on below this account. I have no doubt that this is his account. Can you send me private pictures? It goes on. Basically, when you look at his tweets, he's basically in desperation tweeting a lot of people, can you send me, even to Jed Woods, if you know who he was, even to Joey Essex, can you send me private pictures? But he's tweeting to somebody who's 12 years of age and then asking that person, have you reported me to the police? This is 5 years ago. 5 years ago. So, what can you say? And this is just going back, you can see yourself, you make up your own mind on this one. But to my mind, what happened in the toilets in Ellesmere Port, what started in the toilets in Ellesmere Port, defined his life. And I think he's just from then on, just gone, and now with the internet, it's given the ability to access or to contact even more people to further the way he's now wired. And it's too late. It's too late. He's now gone to prison. He should have gone to prison 31 years ago. He's now gone to prison. Maybe he would have come out. Maybe he would have been changed mind. We don't know. It's too late for the boys. And it's too late for the grandfather, who's now dead. The father's still an elder. I don't know what relationship he has with his children. But surely to goodness he must be thinking to himself, and I hope he does, that we didn't do right. I didn't do right by my boys. Surely he must have seen that things that happen in their lives probably go back to these events with Dennis Anyon. And so that's it. That's the story, and it's not a very nice story. And like I said, it's a subject I keep completely clear from, because it happens to somebody else, someplace. I don't know the individuals involved. And yet now, to me, all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, there's yet another nail in the coffin of why I think this organisation is all wrong, how this can't be Jehovah's true organisation, to let things like that slip past, things that should have been done with, and heaven knows what Anyon has got up to in the meantime. And I do because I still see that the young guy, so I feel sorry for that young guy, that his life ended up taking the road it did, and I wish he could have got the help that he should have got back then, and maybe he could have done something in his life. So I wish something could have done to him, and I feel sorry for his mum. Luckily his mum passed away now, so she would never have known that she would have known, but she never got to see the day that the son got put inside for 10 years. So yeah, it's a sad story. What can you say? Anyway, that's it. It's it's very, very sad. It's very, very sad. So anyway, my next video hopefully will be a little bit more upbeat, but I thought I had to give this story to you, and I wish I didn't have to, but there you go. Anyway, see you later. Bye bye.